Stuart Pankin, welcome inside the Crazy Ant Farm. How are you tonight?
You know, I couldn't be better. Never better in my life.
Well, fantastic. We
Thanks for
love to
having
hear
me.
that.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
Well, it's
And
good.
as they
It's
say,
good to have you here. We're excited to talk to you, especially about the film. It seems highly relevant in today's stage of enlightenment that we're all in.
I guess.
Yeah. So we're gonna dive into that for sure. But what we like to do at the beginning of the interviews is kind of give an introduction to the fans who may not be familiar with who you are or your career a little bit. So
I
let's
want their
talk
names.
So let's talk about that a little bit. Was acting something you knew right from the get-go you wanted to do, or did you kind of fall into it? How'd you get started?
Well, as a kid, I used to make my family laugh, during family dinners. So I was always sort of an obstreperous, ebullient person. But in high school, the auditorium collapsed in our high school. So there was no theater. There was no plays. I think I would have liked to have done that. So it was something that was churning up in the back of my head. And in college, I started college as a philosophy major. No, God, that's my son. Magna cum laude, a psychology major. And because I liked it in high school. But, as I say, when I walked across that cold, dark campus to audition for the first play that was available to me, I knew it. I was hooked. And then I met Dave Brubaker, who was my teacher, director, and dear friend until he died. And he was such an inspiration. And that was it. I guess I knew, just bubbled up, yeah, you're going to be an actor. That's it.
And so you say play, obviously, and like so many of our guests and so many actors that we've talked to, it starts on stage, right? And then makes the transition in. So did you, after you get it and you're bitten by the bug and you know this is what you want to do, did you see yourself making the transition eventually? Or did you think, nope, this is it, stage, I'm a theater guy, this is where I want to go?
Well, theater's always, it's been my first love. I mean, I would, if Dionysius, who's the Lord of the theater, came down and said, you can do one thing, stage or play, and I would take the theater, because the theater is, it's an actor's medium. I mean, it's a collaborative medium, but when you're on that stage, you grow, you learn, you listen to the audience, you find things. In film, it's a director's medium, and once it's on film, it's done.
Yeah.
It's finished. The old joke that I used to hear is when you're in New York acting, you say, geez, how can I get out to that land, to that Hollywood land place with the palm trees and the money? And then when you're in Hollywood, you say, how can I get back to New York and just to do something?
Yeah.
Do those good plays. I mean, because they are. I mean, look, I don't know. I always say things get me in trouble, but the with certain exceptions, the degree of difficulty that television and even some movies give an actor, unless you're really lucky to be able to pick and choose your scripts,
right,
are not as challenging as what you get to do. They've been writing plays for 3,000 years. They've been writing movies, since 1920. So, the richness of the material that an actor gets to do on stage is enticing. It's intriguing. It's a great feeling to be in front of an audience.
Oh, sure. I love that. That's so cool. And a question that we haven't actually asked actors who are dually talented on stage and in front of the camera is, what's the difference between scheduling, like for practicing for scenes for stage rather than for like a television show? Because we always hear about these 12-hour days, 13-hour days. What's it like practicing for, an on-stage production?
Well, that's a complicated question. In stage, you usually, if you're lucky, you get 2-3 weeks of. I did many plays in the St. Vincent Theater back in Pennsylvania because my wife helped form that company, and we usually get anywhere from a week and a half to 2.5 weeks of rehearsal. That's a lot of time, and then you rehearse, and then you go on stage and you do the play that you've been rehearsing.
Right.
So you work and then you rehearse. So you get a lot of rehearsal time. In a Broadway show, I imagine they have more time. In some films, like I did a movie called Second Sight. We actually came in Boston. We went to Boston, and we rehearsed for a week or a week and a half or 2 weeks. That's unusual unless you're a star and you say I need the rehearsal. Unless the project is complicated and needs that rehearsal time. In television, if you're, if you're a regular, say on a sitcom, are you still interested in this? Because we can cut to a commercial.
Oh yeah, no.
If you're a regular on a sitcom, you get about a week, to go read the script, go over the script, go over the blocking, and then a lot of the time toward the end is spent with technical stuff, camera positions and lighting and blah blah blah. If you're a guest guy, that's a lonely task. You come into to a set that's maybe been working for years.
Yeah.
With a bunch of friends. And when I was on a series that ran a long time, I understood that about people. I sensed that. But when you're a guest spot on a television show, you gotta sort of just take a deep breath, get out of the way, know your lines, hit your marks, and do the best job you can, because nobody's gonna, spoon feed you.
Right.
When the stars are around, they're going to spoon feed the stars, but they're not necessarily going to spoon feed the guest people. And there are some great guest, parts out there, some terrific, but it's a complicated question because all those elements come into, time and money.
Yeah.
But that's why, again, going back to it, the stage is so much, more rewarding for me, because every rehearsal and every run through, you say, oh, geez, I mean, an interesting story, not that you care, but Zoe Caldwell came to Columbia. We were in the master's program there, and she came to talk. And she won a Tony Award for a play. I forget the play.
Mm-hmm.
Won a Tony Award when she came to talk to us. And she said, the play was now over. And she kept doing it. And she said, basically what I'm saying, how about learning and growing. And she walked off stage, the last performance of the play ever. And she walked past the stage manager and said, I finally figured out how to do that scene. I mean, that's remarkable. I mean, it's remarkably forgiving for actors, to say, well, it doesn't feel right. He says, well, give it time, on stage. Give it time. Things will happen. Yeah. There are tons of stories about that, but I won't bore you.
No, I love that because you were saying, for every rehearsal and every walkthrough and every practice, you think, oh, maybe I could do that. But live also, and each live performance, exactly. You're like, wait a minute, that because I guess part of that is you get that instant notice from the audience. You can tell what's working and what isn't, and maybe you need to change that. Where on film and television, you don't know. Did that work? Did that not work?
Yes, you don't. And there are times, especially if you're doing comedy, you can, even in drama, when you're doing plays, serious plays, you can sense if the audience is with you.
Sure. In
a comedy, of course, if they laugh, but there are some nights you get lousy audiences and you're going to go, hello, I'm making it up, of course. Yes, my lord, the porridge is in the oven. And you expect this huge laugh and you're sitting like, and then you got to walk across the stage, which is usually coming from the left, and you got to make stuff up. It's a wonderful, acting it's a wonderful, strange profession. I'm glad I'm in it.
Oh yeah. Well, you could tell you're very passionate about it when you talk, and we love that. We love people who are passionate about what they do, and that's why you've had the longevity that you've had. You got to love what you do. You got to ride the ups and downs and all of the little nooks and crannies of this industry, and boy, there are a lot.
Are you saying I'm old?
No, you are seasoned, sir, just like myself.
They call me salt and pepper.
I love it. Hey, at least you can still claim that. I'm bald now. I've lost all mine, so it's all good.
Just a little salt and pepper. Huh? Yeah.
It's fine. I love that, though. Well, with having so much experience, as we should say, what do you think from the beginning to where you are now, what do you think has changed about the entertainment industry the most, whether that be on film and television or on stage? What do you think has changed the most?
Well, stage has probably remained pretty. I mean, the material on stage has changed. It's become a lot more sexual, a lot more political.
Yeah.
A lot more socially aware. Mm-hmm. That's the big change there. For better or for worse. Aristotle said theater should entertain and instruct in that order.
Right.
In film, the changes, my God, there are the same thing. It's Now films are much more political, much more socially relevant or whatever, or addressing social problems or social conditions, and as far as, I don't know, the technical part of the business, when I came out to California, you had what they call a picture price. I mean, you did a project and then they paid you, you go on to the next project, and maybe you get a little bit more. Now it's, a lot of times it's either take it or leave it, unless you're a big star, and then you can command a decent salary. So monetarily, that's changed. After the strikes in the 80s, television shows used to have tons of character actors and tons of guest parts. After the strikes, boy, that just pared down because the industry got a little tight in the belt. And there was a lot less work out there, regular work for a lot of actors. And to be honest with you, there's just too many damn good actors out there. I mean, there are just too many.
Yeah.
So much competition. In the old days, you go for an audition, there's a callback, there's 20 people at the audition, you come back, there's 5. Nowadays you go to the audition, there's 20 people at the audition, you come back, there's 30.
My goodness. Yeah.
And there's just, the amount. And I'm not saying there's not a lot of work. I mean, there's not a lot of, sometimes it's not great work, but you look at all these, I call them pays, the Netflix, the Showtimes, the HBO. There is hundreds of productions, and often, in my humble opinion, too many to make them all good. There's just not enough quality out there. To be able to fill that vast amount of product necessity.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Of course you do.
That's exactly.
So that's a big change.
Yeah.
That's a big change. In my day, when we were doing not necessarily the news, there was, you should pardon the expression, 29% cable penetration.
Right.
And that's not pay cable. That's just, like cable.
Right.
Not necessarily news had much less, which is astounding that it became as popular as it did. Nowadays, there are... there's just a vast amount of product out there, and you just can't fill it as well as maybe you should.
It's a great point, because with all of the streamers, and now the studios all have their own, before it's 1 or 2, but now they all have them. And you're right. It has become a quantity over quality, because when you have that much it's like feeding a beast that you can never fill. It's just, we need content. And you're right. I think that sometimes the realization of that is all of it can't be good. We just need something to plug into that hole right there. And that's unfortunate sometimes.
You're right. It can't all be good. I'm not saying that there's not good stuff out. And I watch a lot of stuff on television that I really enjoy. I won't go into it. And then there's stuff that I'll turn on for 5 minutes and go, oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Same.
But they have to, like you said, they have to fill the content.
Yep.
I don't know why, but they do. And I don't mean to insult writers and actors and stuff, because, like I said, there's an awful lot of good writers and actors out there. I'm just saying that there's also an awful lot of product possibilities that need.
That's correct. Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway. Enough about me.
Well, but no, this is perfect, because this is a perfect transition in, right? Because you were talking about now the shift in the culture, and now it's not so much entertain and then info. It's here's our message that we want to put, and if you're entertained, great, but we want the message slammed down, right? So let's talk about the film Deep in the Forest, because
let's go back before Deep in the Forest.
Sure.
Somebody said, some famous guy, maybe you have to look it up, but he says this was years ago, and this is when the old time stuff. He says, "Yeah, this movie is going to send a message." And the director said, "You want to send a message? Call Western Union."
Right.
One of the best anti-war movies I ever saw was Shenandoah with Jimmy Stewart.
Yeah.
And it wasn't these guys with black backgrounds and stylistic things. It was a movie about a family who you saw what happened in the war, and it really struck you, as opposed to banging you over the head with the message.
Exactly. And yeah, I mean, I'm all for if there's an underlying tone and you're getting it, you're catching it, you're feeling it, as long as it's not, like you said, banging you over the head like this is the agenda that we're trying to feed you. I go to be entertained, I to escape.
Yeah, I understand that. And I'll tell you something. The problem is, maybe, is that if you continue to bang people over the head with stuff, that's what they're going to expect. They're not going to be able to take the material in and go, oh, I get it. Oh, it's like, this is what you have to believe. This is what you have to believe.
That's right.
And it's going to, I think, lessen the, I don't know, maybe, I have no right to say this, but lessen the if not intelligence, the creative urges, the creative perceptions of the audience.
Yes.
You know, I'd rather have some taken in and figure it out myself, because I think you learn more. Like Patton said, if I want something done, I said, don't tell me how to do it.
That's right.
Tell him to do it, and he'll come up with a way with a better way, or a good way, or a better way to do it. Well, I think that's the same thing with entertainment.
Yeah, we talk about it all the time. No, we talk about it all the time, honestly, as filmmakers ourselves, and we just completed our first film. It's like sometimes, you know...
Did you ever call me? Did you even think about me?
That's for the next one. We've got you. We've got you. But you're right. Like you know, a few people during the process of us making it were like, well, why don't you do this or why don't you do that? And our response was, because we think the audience is smart enough to get it without being spoon-fed. We don't feel like we have to tell them that. They're smart enough to get that. And so we feel that. I mean, you're exactly right with that. You're spot on.
Thanks.
Sure. So, okay, now let's dive deep into the forest, though. This is a very interesting...
Into the forest.
Yeah. This is a very interesting film because it does... represent what's going on in the country right now with such a deep divide. You're either so far this way or so far that way. There's no middle ground anymore, and they're both extreme. And so you guys are there's a civil war going on in this film, and you guys are basically hiding out away from.
Yes.
And then start to turn on yourselves, right? Talk about the whole thing. Yeah, this is really interesting.
That's it. That's it in a nutshell. It's about, I'm actually reading some of the stuff. It's about, you know, the left and the right and a civil war, and the people who are, in our case, more liberal, being sequestered away so that we can be safe from the war, because they're rounding up guys that are not thinking. I mean, it's not like they're coming together with ideas. It's the left or the right or the wrong. And that's exactly right. And the other thing that I enjoy, not necessarily the politics, but is the 12 of us in the room, or whatever it is, the dynamics and the changes of loyalties and the changes of sides, and people who you'd think would be together, you know, all of a sudden it becomes some of us become selfish, some of us become protective, you know, and it's all that. And it's wrapped up with guns and knives, no helicopters, but guns and knives. And while I'm here, can I mention the cast? Because
absolutely.
The cast is in no particular order: Peter Jason, who I love, the great Larry Cedar, who I love all these people. Ursula Brooks, me, Derwin, Derwin Jordan, great. Wendy, they're all great. Wendy Worthington, Makara Gamble, Spencer Martin is in it, Will Bradley, PJ Oakland, and Jeremy directed it. So those are the guys. There's also Keith Moore. Keith is in it. His name dropped out of the cast list, I guess. But Jimmy Gadd is the producer. Roger Mayer's producer. I'm just reading this. Robin Nixon. I don't know. I'm just an actor. I don't know.
That's more credit anybody. Yeah.
Right. I just got Sean Bevan and Juliet Bevan.
There you go.
I guess they're living in sin or they're married. I don't know.
Well, you just showed everybody your seasoned glasses right there. You just
I know. I just like to, during these things, I like to get the cast in because I like to.
That's very humble of you, because I mean, a lot of people.
I'm not a humble person.
He's like, I don't want to admit it, but yeah, a lot of people come on the show and, you know, just talk about them, themselves, and I, like, all basically very self-centered. And, you know, when you think about actors, kind of in a nutshell, when you think about people going out to Hollywood, it's like people really perceive actors as people who only think about themselves and people who don't think about others. But in our case, we've actually come across a lot of people like yourself and other people that's come on the show that give everybody else credit, which I think is absolutely amazing. I think that is so necessary, and to show how down-to-earth actors really are.
Nobody knows about it, but I appreciate being recognized, and I know that if I'm on the street, if that ever happens again, and I see a character actor that maybe not a lot of people know, but I do, I always go out of the way to say I really enjoy your work. I mean, because I would enjoy that.
Right.
Sure, absolutely.
These guys are probably not as famous and handsome and iconic as I am. So 2, 3, 4. So I would just like to give them a little pat on the back,
Yeah.
sometimes.
Of course. I go back to what you were just describing about what you liked as far as the dynamic of the 12. And it was very, it just immediately stuck into my head, 12 Angry Men. Same type, where they start to turn on each other, and who you think were aligned were not aligned, and now I think that's fascinating, because I do think that when you get in a room with people and things start to happen, opinions do change, and alliances do form and make way. So that's interesting.
Absolutely, that's an interesting comparison. I always feel, not always, but I felt there's lots of something in a contained space, or a contained match. I mean, if it's a small part of the war, or people in a room, or people in an elevator, and all these movies have been done,
right?
Or in a submarine. It's you gotta work harder to make it good, because you don't have the visual effects of clouds and skies and rain and buildings. You got to concentrate on the people. I mean, the people, the characters, that's where the money is.
Yeah.
You gotta stay on that. And but you're right. And it's an interesting comparison.
Well, thank you.
Of course. And we'd be remiss to say that you had also done some voice acting in your career as well. So how do you, from your, on-stage performances and from your on-camera performances, how does doing voice acting change from those two?
Well, that's another good question. It's all acting. You have to bring whatever skills and training and talent you have to whatever you do. In voiceovers, in cartoons, you sit in a room with a bunch of wonderful people, and you read the script and you create the character, whatever that is. And then the animators animate it. You all know this, but I'm telling you, friends.
Of course.
Yeah. In Dinosaurs, it was just the opposite. The Henson puppeteers, did the script, and they moved the mouths of the puppets, and then the film came to us, and we sat in a dark room and revoiced the words. Like my character, who did Earl, the father, he was a little English guy, back Wilson, and he talked like this. Hi, honey, I'm home. Well, that's not Earl. I mean, he's a great guy and a great puppeteer, but so they came to me and said, "Oh, honey, I'm home." I revoiced it. Now the interesting thing is that it's a little less creative for the voice actor situation, because you're relegated to the technical considerations of the puppet's mouth.
Right.
And I was told by Bill Beretta, who was inside my costume and is now a big producer at Henson, the way I read some lines and the way they did their mouths during the course of the 3 years we did the show, it sort of came together. I mean, they kind of get what I was trying to do, and I got what they were trying to do.
Nice.
So it became more of a collaborative effort than you'd think it would be in the beginning.
Yeah.
But that's and as far as acting on stage or screen and voiceover, it's all the same. It's acting. People say, "What's the difference between acting and stage and screen?" Well, it's all the same. I mean, technically, you gotta, you go, "Honey, I love you." You can't do that.
Right.
You can do that on stage. But there are some technical considerations.
Right.
But it's all acting. I mean, it's all, you look at the script, you see what the author wants to do. If you have some suggestions, I work with a lot of people that have been swell in taking suggestions that I've given, and they, I don't want to pat myself on the back because I got arthritis, but they come up to me afterwards and say, "Thank you for making it better.
Sure.
Thank you for turning straw into gold. Thank you. I didn't know it could be that good." And that's a collaborative effort, that you love.
Right.
And I've been doing that since I was a kid when I first came here. Isn't, I've got some film under my belt. Now I'll try to do. I did it and in the San Pedro Beach Punk, which was the first thing I did. And then the other guys started to do it. And the directors would say to Aaron Spelling, "These guys are changing the script." And Aaron Spelling said, "Listen, this is, swear to God." He said, "in the 1% where they screw up because they're putting something else in, is worth the 99% that they make it better, that they improve it. So you
Nice.
just
Right.
film, you want to film it both ways.
That's
film
right.
it both ways, but you do it their way."
Well, and Aaron Spelling was pretty good.
He was pretty good.
Yeah, he had a nice run there.
The San Pedro Beach Pumps was actually, though, his first and last attempt at hour-long comedy. So Nobody's perfect.
Hey, that's right. That's right.
I love that, though. I love that because, our podcast is built on helping the up-and-comers trying to break into the entertainment industry, and to have a legend like yourself with so many stories and so many different experiences throughout the years, that will definitely help them, progress their career and their passion to see them move forward. Yeah, that's what it's all about. We have a industry news segment as well. We give all of the latest weekly industry news, the biggest stuff, not only like, what actors are attached to what projects, but like the business side of things and how Bob Chapek is running Disney into the ground and like a whole bunch of things like that.
Let me tell you something. That's incredibly valuable.
Yes.
When I went to Columbia to getting my master's degree, they never or rarely talked about the business end.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
When you get out of these hallowed walls of Shakespeare and Chekhov, so I applaud that. I think that's great.
Well, thank you. Yeah, because I feel like, especially if you're going the route of acting, you do forget sometimes because you're not told, like you said, and you just forget that it is a business. And it's very important to be aware of the business and what's going on in it. It's called show business. And, I think a lot of people forget that.
If you're sensitive, if you're young and sensitive, well, it might not be for you. I mean, people keep saying to me, because, I'm of an age now when I don't work a lot, by choice mostly. Although if anybody's out there producing and writing, give me a call.
Right.
But they say, why don't you teach? Why don't you teach? And I said, I can in all conscience stand up in front of a group of fresh-faced young people, and tell them to try to get into a business that has 95% unemployment.
Yeah.
And of that 5% that works, maybe 2 or 3% make a living.
Right.
I can't do it. I mean, I can't do it. We used to teach classes, my son's, high school, just to fill in for teachers and not necessarily the news. We used to go around the country teaching improv classes, but it was mostly publicity.
Right.
I wasn't putting great clods of wisdom into college kids. But it's a tough business. And if you're passionate about it, like I was, and obviously a lot of people are, you can't tell them not to.
Exactly.
You say, it's a tough business. You're not going to work a lot. I don't care. I don't care. I'm gonna, it's not going to be me. I'm going to do it. I'm going to have that series. I'm going to get that movie. So
there you go.
That's great. God, more power to it.
Exactly. It's all about having that mindset and having that drive to move forward, right? That's what it's all about. But listen, man, thank you so much for coming on the show and getting a little crazy with us.
No, I'm ready to talk for another hour.
Yeah.
Well, that just means open invite to come back whenever you'd like.
Anytime.
Yeah.
Anytime. Just get Jeremy Lanny to tell me that I can come back and he'll.
For sure. Well, listen, take care. You enjoy the rest of your night, and we look forward to speaking with you again.
Anytime. This is really a pleasure.
Before we go, tell everybody where they can follow you. Are you on social media anywhere?
You can. I'm usually at the drugstore in Santa Monica on 4th Street on Thursdays. If anybody wants to come down and talk to me, I'm on Facebook.
Okay.
Which my niece and nephew forced me to go.
Right.
I'm on Twitter, but my daughter-in-law forced me to do that too. So
right.
All right. Well, we will tell everybody to go there and find you and follow you, and maybe at the drugstore too.
Maybe at the drugstore.
That's right. Yeah,
for sure. I love it. Well, listen, take care, and we look forward to speaking with you again, sir.
Pleasure, guys.
Thank you. Have a good night.